All right. Welcome, everybody, to a lot of things, to Belfast Bay Watershed Coalition's May program and to Bird Week. We're right in the middle of Bird Week. We've had 3 morning bird walks, and we got 3 more to go, and then a birding by canoe on Saturday. All of those things are listed in the newsletter on the back table, so please take yourself a copy so you'll know everything you can do. And not only that, I wanted to announce that on May 31st, we have our Belfast Bay Watershed annual Walk and Roll for Conservation, which is a day down on the waterfront at Steamboat Landing Park with all kinds of tables of all the ways you can get involved with us for conservation, and music and food and stuff for kids to do. So it should be a great day from 10 to 2 on Saturday the 31st of May. And the following Saturday is the Resilience Fair, also down on the waterfront from 1 to 3, 10,
Thank you.
10 to 3, with all kinds of, do you want to say anything more about that, Brenda?
Not right now, I wasn't prepared.
Okay, there's some flyers in the back. And then I wanted to say thank you to all the artists for the wonderful bird show in the Kramer Gallery and in the back of this room. And we have 3 of you that I know of sitting in this room. We have Lisa Brita, stand up quickly, and and Ann Kennedy, and Betsy Headley. And are there any others who I don't know that are here? Well, it's a wonderful art show, and I hope you all get to enjoy that while you're here. And I want to thank Brenda and the library for being the heart and glue of our greater community. You know,
Here you go, Brenda!
And a reminder that we're all in the land of the Wabanaki, the people of the dawn, who have lived here continuously for 12,000 years, caring for the natural environment and living in partnership with the water, the land, and all species. Our program tonight is devoted to many of these species, our feathered friends, and our friend of these feathered friends, our backed by popular demand, Nick Lund from Maine Audubon.
Hello, 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 hello. We good? What's up, Belfast? How you doing? Good to see you. Can you guys hear me okay? Yeah. Okay, cool. And I'm going to do a little test because when Chloe asked me to come back, she said, I want you to do more on sounds of stuff. So I'm prepared to do more on sounds, but I got to make sure we can hear the sounds. Brenda, good? Okay. Can you hear that? Okay. So in the back too, I got a hands up in the back. It's a little weird holding it up to my throat, but that's fine, we'll do it. So we'll do it. We'll hear about sounds. We're gonna do something called the sounds of migration. I just made this up for tonight. This is just for you guys. Let's get into it. As always, I must start with this slide. I am Nick Lund. I work for Maine Audubon. Maine Audubon is the oldest and largest wildlife conservation organization in the state of Maine. We've been around since 1843. When we were the Portland Society for Natural History. We do all kinds of great stuff. We have scientists, we have educators, we have advocates like me, and we're a great organization. So if you're not a member, we'd love to have you on board. I got some stuff in the back that you're welcome to take with you. Thank you for coming. And let me say too, this is May 13th. It is May 13th right now. Do you understand that? Do you understand what May 13th means to a birder like me? This is the peak of the mountain. This is what we wait for every dark, dreary day in January. This is what we wait for in the hot September when there's no birds singing, nothing's happening. This is May 13th, today. There are birds everywhere. I was pumping gas in Augusta and a prairie warbler was singing while I was pumping my gas. That's what's happening. This is the greatest time to be a birder right now, like today, this week, today. I saw 50 species at Capissic Park in Portland today, this morning, in an hour. Easy. What's going on? The birds are all coming. They're all coming. Every night that we are asleep, over our heads, millions and billions of birds are flying from parts south to here, or parts north. And they are coming in large numbers. 3.5 billion of them come from Central and South America, beginning in March and April, right, and continue peaking through May. 2.5 billion of those go up into Canada or northern Maine. In the fall, of course, they all, get busy, right, in the summer. And in the fall, even more birds are coming down. But they come thicker right now. They come quicker because they got to get up to their territories as soon as they can so they can start to have babies before it gets cold again, right? I don't even want to think about it because it's May 13th. But we don't have that much time, right? We don't have that much time. But these are the glory days, my friend. This is just a wee sample of some of the birds that you could see out in the park right now if you wanted to on May 13th. These are some warblers. We'll be talking a little bit about them later. But just to sort of get into the May 13th-ness, this is a huge slide showing when warblers arrive in Maine. And you can see along the bottom, April, May, June, each of those little dividers is a week. We are at the top of the peak right now on May 13th. This is the day. I just want to appreciate that with everybody because this is what we wait for. This week, this day, these are the high migration days. Just quickly, all of these birds are awesome. We're going to be talking mostly about sounds later on, but there's so much to learn and love about all these birds. Warblers are the famous migrants right now. So the east coast of the United States, everyone in the world is jealously looking at us right now because we have 20, 25 or so species of warblers, these little songbirds that in the fall spend their lives down in Central and South America. They're sort of maybe a little drabber. They're not looking so great. But in the springtime, when they got some mates to impress, it's time to roll, right? And so each of them has their own beautiful costume. And as you can see, their own sort of way of living with each other, right? This is a couple, 5 warblers, Cape May Blackburnian, Black-throated green, bay-breasted warbler, yellow-rumped. I saw 3 of those 5 this morning in Portland, no big deal. Shows how they all use the different parts of the tree, right? They're all coexisting on the same tree. Some use the bottom, like that yellow rump. Some use the middle, like the bay-breasted. Some use the tippy top, like a Blackburnian. And anyone who's seen a Blackburnian knows that you see it like this, right? You see its butt and its underside as it's way up ahead of you. That's just the way they go. It's not just warblers migrating, of course. This is a slide. These are not American shorebirds, but these are shorebirds from across the pond, showing again how they separate themselves up and can all coexist on the shore. Each of them has a differently evolved bill to eat special whatever prey they want. Could be marine worms or ghost shrimps or gastropods and small things. These are all the birds that are coming to us right now. Why are they doing it? Well, not these, but most every other songbird is coming for our insects, right? This is insect time. One of the few great things about a Maine winter is that we don't have a bunch of insects biting us, right? But once the summer comes, we have insects all over the place. And those insects, they may be pests to us, but they are delicious nutrition if you are a bird trying to raise babies, right? Caterpillars especially are the absolute best food for baby birds. And more than 99% of all songbirds, even if they eat seeds throughout the rest of the year, even if their bills are built for eating seeds only like a cardinal, feed insects to their babies when it's time to raise babies because insects are so nutritious. If you think about it, it's like a little protein burrito, right? In the right time of year, there's all kinds of caterpillars out there. They're easy to catch, they're plentiful, and they're full of nutrition. And basically, when a baby songbird has, or when an adult songbird has babies, all they do is feed them caterpillars. You can see here there are studies where a guy sat there, Doug Ptolemy, a famous guy, sat there and counted every caterpillar that came back in a pair of Carolina chickadees. These are not black-cap chickadees, these are Carolina, very close to our black-caps. And the studies showed that between 350 and 570 caterpillars every day for more than 2 weeks to raise 1 clutch of chickadees, right? Just 1 clutch of chickadees, tiny little hand-sized birds. That's, for those of you who haven't done the math, between 5,600 and 10,200 caterpillars to raise 1 clutch of chickadees. Multiply that by the other clutches of chickadees and the other songbirds, and you need thousands and thousands of caterpillars in order to raise birds, right? So we are realizing that in migration and as a breeding population, the best thing we can do for birds excuse me, I'm coughing, is to give them the caterpillars they need to feed their babies. And the best way to do that is to plant native plants, okay? You may have heard about the evolutionary arms race between plants and insects. Insects want to eat the plants. Plants don't want to get eaten. So the plants evolve some sort of defense, maybe a toxin like the milkweed, right? Can't eat milkweed. I don't want to eat it so bad. Just kidding. I don't know why I said that. No one would want to eat milkweed, but you can't, even if you wanted to, because there's that white poison in it, right? That poison keeps off everything except monarchs, right? Monarchs have developed this like sodium pump in their stomachs that can eat that poison and doesn't hurt them. They also sometimes nibble the ends of the stalk, and so at the base of the leaf, so the poison drips down, so there's not as much of it in the leaf, and they can eat the leaf, right? That's cool, but it's hard to develop a sodium pump in your stomach. And so in order to evolve defenses around milkweed, monarchs basically had to give up everything else, right? They can't get around the defenses of other plants, whether it's thorns or a different poison or weird hairs that get in you. So that means monarchs are specialized to milkweed, right? And this happens all across the insect kingdom. So when you have a certain plant, maybe it's a spice bush for a spice bush swallowtail or all kinds of others I can't even remember, there's specific insects that go with that. And that's great. So if that plant is around, that means you get a ton of those insects, and that means you get a ton of that food for birds. But if you have a plant from somewhere else, say you plant a ginkgo tree from Asia, they have defenses that our insects can't get around. And that means that those things are absolute deserts for the caterpillars that birds need, right? So when you plant native plants, you give native birds the food that they need to survive, right? So that's just my quick migration tip. I'm so excited that it's May 13th. But let's talk about noises now, because birding, the more I birdwatch, the important takeaway is that you gotta listen first. Hearing birds is the way you find birds, period, right? You don't have to necessarily identify the call, but if you can hear it, that's what brings your eye to where the bird is. And learning about bird song, learning about bird noises is the best way to becoming a better birder, because it'll help you in all facets. And the first step is learning that birds make a lot of different noises, right? When we think about bird noises, we think about songs, right? Beautiful songs. I'll tell you right now, this is one of the loudest places you can imagine. But there is no beautiful songs happening in this place right here. This is a colony of penguins, and this sounds like a nightmare, probably. Unless you're a female penguin, it probably sounds kind of sexy, maybe to you. But the point is that not every bird noise that we think of sounds pretty, right? And a lot of birds make a lot of different noises for different reasons. Let's talk about some of those noises. One of them is an alarm call. Birds, and when I'm saying alarm call, I'm thinking about that unfortunate cedar waxwing, not that powerful sharp-shinned hawk, right? So the last thing that cedar waxwing may have done is doing an alarm call. Didn't work out. Didn't get the message. But birds, especially songbirds, are always on the lookout for predators, right? They are, under attack, and they're constantly looking out for each other with their voices to say, "Hey, there's a predator coming," or "What is that weird thing with two legs walking around down there?" You never know what's going on. So understanding alarm calls means that you hear a lot more than you would otherwise. Chickadees are a great example. Chickadees give a couple different alarm calls. One is this simple seat, and I actually don't know if I have this as an option here. But one of the most famous is chickadee, right? So the chickadee that gives a chickadee its name is actually not its song. It's an alarm call, believe it or not. And the reasons that humans hear that song a lot is because they are warning other chickadees about us, right? Chickadees are very social birds. They travel around in flocks all the time. They're constantly talking to each other, and they're warning each other about all kinds of stuff. Maybe it's not a dire warning, but it's like, what is that weird thing? It's got a hat on. What is a hat even? They let each other know. And one of the cool things about chickadees, and I'll just play it really quick. Heard that? Of course. One of the cool things about chickadees is that they're smart. I'm sort of giving it away with the slide right here. But the number of D's on the end of the chickadee call relates to how dangerous the threat is, right? So if you're just strolling in the woods and a chickadee sees you, it's like, chickadee, everybody, chickadee, no big deal, just wanted you to know, right? But if a chickadee's flying around and it sees a screech owl or a sharp-shinned hawk, chickadee, dee, 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 red alert, chickadee, dee, 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 like that. Pretty cool. It's actually a great way. One of the great things about alarm calls for a birder is that it gets you to understand there may be something cool around, right? Chickadees are cool. But if I hear a chickadee going nuts and doing a bunch of chickadee-dee-dee-dee-dees, I'll be like, oh, is there a hawk or an owl around? Maybe. This actually happens a lot. These are crows. This is not a picture from the US. This is the best picture I could find of crows mobbing, right? Crows are the coolest, but they just hate stuff, right? They just hate stuff. Crows, you ever seen a crow following a hawk and like trying to get it out of there? We've all seen that, right? The hawk's not going after the crow. They're completely separate. They're not doing anything. The crows are just like, get out of here. Get out of here. I don't want you here. Crows mob owls and hawks especially. And if you hear a bunch of crows going berserk in a tree, go check it out. Go check it out. Because it's very likely that it's a big owl or a big hawk or something cool. That's just a birder trick. Alarm calls are a good trick. And actually, birders have, I'm wearing the same hat. Birders have used, and I have that same jacket in my car. I'm so glad I'm not wearing all this outfit from 8 years ago. What's different? Just my beard color. Just the amount of gray in my beard. That's great. What a great picture. I put this in here because I am doing something in this picture using alarm calls. This is a famous birder trick called pishing. Anybody, any pishers out there? No? Just one pisher. Okay. Well, this is really important to know. This is a huge trick. So alarm calls can go across species, right? So you've heard of mixed flocks. A lot of times there are mixed flocks of birds going through the woods, and they're all looking out for each other, right? So if one sees a hawk, it's in their advantage if they can all understand the, oh no, a hawk call, right? But as a birder, if we can imitate the alarm call, then we can maybe get birds to come check us out. It's kind of cheating, but a lot of birds like to stay low and stay in the underbrush, and you can't see them, right? But if I can make a noise that they want to see what's the danger's about, maybe they'll poke their head up and take a look at me, and I can take a look at it, and then we'll go on our merry way, right? And we do that by doing something called pishing. So pishing is mimicking the alarm call of a titmouse, generally, and it goes a little something like this. And if anyone wants to try it, please. A lot of birders, a lot of experienced birders develop their own language for that. I'll do a little like that. I don't know if it works any better. It just makes me feel like I'm doing something, right? I'll tell you, when pishing works, you feel like a magician. I have been out in the woods and started pishing, and flocks have come down and go around me. They don't look at you. They ignore you. They think there is another bird who is warning them about an owl or whatever, and they're looking for that owl. And sometimes birds will come pop up, and you can see them looking around, looking for the thing. It's awesome. When it doesn't work, you feel like a real moron. And I advise you not to do it on a public trail where non-birders are walking by, because you're just standing by a bush going psh, 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 and nothing's happening. That actually happens most of the time. But when it works, when you secretly works, it actually works better in the fall often, for whatever reason. There are more mixed flocks in the fall when they're not being territorial. It works awesome. So learn about pishing. That's an alarm call that we are trying to do. I heard, yeah, there we go. Work on it in the car home by yourself. Work on it. All right, the second type of call, contact calls. So now we're getting into calls that are really important to remember because they will help you identify birds going around. Contact calls are simply calls, short calls that birds give to each other to just be like, hey, you still there? We good? I heard about that hawk earlier. Didn't get you? You're still there? This happens all the time. So we all know that cardinals we always see pairs of cardinals, right? They are pair bonded. They are always together, but they're not always looking at each other, right? They're in different bushes, or one's high and one's low, or whatever. So they're constantly calling to each other to be like, dead? You still dead? I'm still alive? Not dead? Good. And if we can learn that call, which is so the thing about contact calls, they are not elaborate. What birds don't want to do is give away their position, right? So they don't want to say, here I am, predators, while I'm checking in with my partner over here. It's an opportunity for you to figure out where I am. They want to be like, you good? And that's it. So contact calls are often very short and to the point, but learning them can help you a lot. So I'll play the cardinal call, if I spell it correctly, which is a sharp metallic tink, and hopefully this will work. Can you hear that? It sounds like hitting a penny on a metal pail or something. It's a very metallic call. But when you are outside and you hear that, and you know that's not a song, that's not another noise, that's metallic, there's cardinals around. And a lot of times there are cardinals around when you can't see them, right? Because they're deep in the bushes. But you're like, oh, there you go, that's a cardinal. This other one here, this is a common yellowthroat, a male common yellowthroat. These birds are in here thick right now. Very common warbler, the warblers. Very common, especially around wet, damp areas, the edges of ponds, watery areas like that. And again, they like to stay out of sight. They like to be right in the thick stuff, down low where it's all swampy and gross. And so you often hear them before you see them. And I got to spell that correctly too. Yellowthroat. I picked the longest word to spell. They have a sort of a, this is one that you'll hear. It's like a wet chant, chant sound. Let's see if this comes across. It's like a quick, wet rattle. Wish I had a better way to get across. But when you are at the shore and you hear a quick, wet rattle like that, chant, it always sounds to me like someone dropping a wet hacky sack. Okay? Just remember that. Is that a wet hacky sack I heard? No, it's a common yellowthroat. Okay? Contact calls are really helpful. A goose honking, that's a contact call, right? These are just sounds that birds give to each other. So that's the second type. The third type is flight calls. Flight calls are also very helpful because birds are flying around over your head and they're tiny and hard to see. And you're like, what is that? I don't know, it flew away. But some birds, not all birds, sing or make noises while they are flying. And if it's one of those noises that you can remember and recognize, then it can help you identify them, right? So this one you're going to have to bear with me just a little bit. This is an American goldfinch. And we all know that the American goldfinch, why did I go American and not goldfinch? American goldfinch, one of the most common birds, right? A lot more common than people realize sometimes. At Maine Audubon, we are constantly fielding questions from folks about birds. And one of the most common ones we hear is, hey, I had all these brown birds at my feeder, and now I have all these goldfinches. They're doing the same things, but what's going on with these brown birds? And we say, aha, those brown birds are the same as the goldfinches. People don't know that goldfinches go from their sort of gray-brown sweatpants, right? Anyway, goldfinches are non-migratory, right, here in Maine. So they eat seeds, which means they don't need to eat insects or migrate to a place where they can find insects. They can stay here all year round and eat seeds, and that's what they do. But they wear their sweatpants in the fall. They don't want to spend all the energy to produce all these bright yellow colors. They want to be able to hang out and relax, right, when there's no pressure to find a mate. And so when these people see all of a sudden my goldfinches are back, it's like, well, no, they're just different. They look different. Anyway, there's a lot more goldfinches, and you can learn to identify them when they are wearing their sweatpants if you can learn their flight call. And the trick is their flight call sounds like they're saying potato chip. Okay? And I'm going to play this, and you're just going to have to fit the words potato chip to this. It goes potato chip, potato chip. Okay? Just potato chip. Okay? You got it? Potato chip. It's in there. It does that. Trust me, when you're out there and you hear a potato chip, then you know it's a goldfinch. And honestly, you'll hear it because you'll probably hear them, as soon as we leave here tonight. They're everywhere. But they're hard to identify when they're flying because they're teeny tiny, right? Potato chip. Do you want to hear it again, or okay, let's hear it again. So just close your eyes and then just think of the word potato chip maybe like make a map of it going up at the toe part. Potato chip. Right? We got it? You hear it? Okay. All right. Take that home with you, and it'll be there. Another great flight call is cedar waxwing. Cedar waxwing is an absolutely beautiful bird. They are one that everybody loves to see. We constantly get people, I saw cedar waxwings. But they're a little frustrating because they travel around. They move around a lot, right? So they'll find a bush full of berries or a tree, and they will descend upon that, and they will eat every last one, and then you'll never see them again, right? So it's actually hard to come by them. You never know where they're going to be any given time. But you do see them flying a lot. They fly in these dense flocks. And actually, I heard someone describe them yesterday. When you see a flock, it looks like when they're flying, they don't have any sense of personal space. They're just like flying, like geese when they fly, they are just moving. I am like in a line, we are moving together. Cedar waxwings look like they're bumping into each other and hitting each other like as they're going. It's a crazy looking flock. There's a lot advanced, super advanced birding is identifying birds by their flight styles. Maybe that's next year. Maybe we'll do that next year. But anyway, they also call while they fly. And they make a very distinct, just simple whistle call, right? They make a simple whistle that may be a little high to hear, especially on the microphone now. But if you can hear it and get it in your heads, and you see a flock of birds that looks like they're just flying into each other and bumping each other, but also blowing on whistles like they're referees, then you may be looking at cedar waxwings. Whoop, I gotta play it. Hear that? Just a simple whistle. A bunch of referees in training. Think of it that way. There's leaving the footlocker. Okay? So that's a really helpful one. Those are the two most helpful flight calls I have found in Maine. Another one too. Well, you want to do one more? Well, I have a bunch more calls coming, but another really good flight call is actually one of my favorite calls, which are broad-winged hawks. Broad-winged hawks are they're Buteo's hawks. They are related to red-tailed hawks and Swainson's hawks and other hawks. They perch and they look for stuff down below and they pounce down on it, right? But they migrate. So they migrate in huge numbers. Thousands and thousands of broad-winged hawks go down through Central America, Panama, into South America, and then they fly up in huge migrations in the fall. Most of them are actually in Maine already by now. They are on their way. They're beautiful, they're small hawks, and they have a really cool call, and they have a very distinctive flight call that they give very often. Let me play it for you. It goes, I'll whistle it first. Okay? Hold on. Oh, where'd it go? Yeah, anybody heard that before? Yeah. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. This is one because these are diurnal raptors. They fly during the day. You could be hearing this at any time. You could be walking into the grocery store and hear that flying over your heads because they don't need to be in special habitat. They're flying right over you. And so that simple sort of boop-hoo call, just stop what you're doing, drop your groceries, and look up, and you'll see a broad-winged hawk. Okay, those are flight calls. The fourth type of call to remember is begging. This is a call that any parent knows instinctively here. This is a type of call that triggers some ancestral part in our bodies to say there's a baby crying, right? And that's what this is, babies crying, right? Babies looking for food. This is a call that we here in Maine will hear later in the year. So this is a call that you may start hearing in July and August as all these birds that are coming are having babies, and then the babies want food. And I put this in here, this begging birds isn't something you hear a lot maybe, but there's no other sounds like it, right? These are birds that may know really well, but the babies making calls that you don't hear any other time. And so very often in the latter part of the summer, you're like, what is that noise? And you have to investigate because who knows what species it is making that weird noise. And there aren't even recordings of them because they're different or unusual. But when you hear a noise that sounds annoying, Like, we all love our kids, but you know what I'm talking about, right? You're like, that is an annoying, insistent noise. Go check it out, because it's a begging baby, and you may see the parents come in and feed them something cool. But then we'll go to songs, right? So songs, whenever I talk about bird songs, it's never May 13th, right? This is the perfect time to talk about bird songs, because right now all kinds of birds are singing. When you wake up, just appreciate it. We get complaints all the time at Maine Audubon. People call us, and they're like, I got birds singing outside. How can I make them be quiet? I slam the phone down. Say, but that happens. People don't appreciate birdsong, but when you step outside in the morning right now, it is alive with birdsong. And it's songs, right? It's birds singing to each other, and that is any number of things. When the birds are on territory, they're saying, this is my dang territory, right? Or, hey ladies, check out my territory. But also, lots of female birds sing, either to proclaim their territory, or just proclaim themselves. Or I watched a female black and white warbler singing her heart out this morning. And so lots of birds are testing out their vocal cords right now as they're on their way to their eventual territory. And songs, because part of the point is to be impressive, are impressive, right? So not all of them, as we'll see. But a lot of birds put a lot of effort into their songs because they want to show how much effort they can put into something, right? They want to show how cool they are. And so a lot of bird songs these is why they're the most famous. We talked about the chickadee, black-capped chickadee earlier. And a lot of people think that the chickadee noise is the song of the chickadee, but it ain't, as we covered. Do you know the song of the black-capped chickadee? Okay, you've heard this, I guarantee it. Ah, yeah. That's it. They're not all very complicated. But that is a song of the black-capped chickadee. You start hearing that in about March when they're getting ready to roll. And again, because they are non-migratory, they are. You hear that earlier. The other warblers and stuff that are migrating up, they start singing down in Central America, South America to get ready for the migration. Also singing earlier. But we hear the chickadees because they are getting ready on their territory. So that's where the chickadee is. So I have a couple. We'll get into some in a minute. Some more like, here are some bird songs that you should remember. But I just have a few slides here about appreciation. Because there are some dang pretty bird songs out there in the world, right? Common loon is somewhere at the top of the list, right? We can fight later in the parking lot about who has the prettiest song. But a lot of people love the songs of common loons, right? Let me play a couple. One of the cool thing about loons is they have different songs that there are different calls that mean different things. Some are songs. When we think about song in the traditional sense, when we talk about a loon advertising its territory to female loons, we are often thinking about this, the tremolo call. This is their version of two things: "What's up, ladies?" and also, "Get off my territory," okay? But loons, of course, have other vocalizations, and it's worth talking about those a little bit. This is the yodel call. This is given between different pairs of loons to check in with each other. So you have a big lake, or even you have lakes nearby to each other. I used to be so scared of that when I was a kid. We have a camp near Augusta on a lake, and I used to be terrified of loons at night. They sound so scary. But that's loons going, "Hey, Johnson's, we good? You still good down there? Everybody good?" And they can hear that for miles, right? So you can talk across lakes to each other to check in. There's this call. This is the whale call, W-A-I-L. This is given inside pairs of loons, often when they're on the nest, to recall the partner who's out fishing. Be like, "I'm ready to switch it up." Finally, there's just a hoot call. This is a call given in close proximity between either parents and chicks or between parents. Hoot, it's a contact call. Right? Very cool. Those are our common loon calls. Thrushes. So this Swainson's thrush is part of a group of thrushes. We have about 6 or 7 in Maine, related to robins, right? So the size and shape of a robin. But most of them, Bicknell's, Veery, Swainson's, wood thrush, gray cheek thrush, hermit thrush, are some variation of this: brown, white-bellied, and spots on the chest. Some of them have brighter spots, some of them have dimmer spots, different browns or whatever. This Swainson's thrush, the easy identification mark is, see the buffy spectacles up there? That buff on the face is a deadlock for a Swainson's thrush. Swainson's thrushes are or all thrushes really, are famous for their calls. They have these beautiful flute-like calls. They hang out deep in the woods. They have these sort of deep wooded territories, and they sing loudly. They can't see each other, and so they have to sing loudly, and they've evolved these beautiful songs to get in touch with each other. Here is the song of a Swainson's thrush. Is that ringing any bells? I'll play a couple more. This is a wood thrush. It's flute-like and metallic. Very cool. This is another one. This is a veery. I wrote a field guide to the Birds of Maine. And one of the hardest things to do in a field guide is do the dang mnemonics for the call, to write out a call. It's almost impossible. You're down there like, is that a dry chat or a startled trit? I don't know. Stuff like that. It's hard. I'm down there in the basement going crazy. But my friend, Michael Tucker, helped me remember this call. This is a veery, and it's named after its call. It veers downward, right? That's where it gets its name. And he said, the way I remember it is that it sounds like a video game character dying. Okay? Right? It veers downward. So if you're out there and you're like, someone is either playing Mario from 1989 or there's a veery out there. That's what's happening. Veery also, I should say, this picture doesn't really show it really well, but they have the faintest spotting on the breast. They're lighter colored than other thrushes, and there's almost like faint spots. I don't know, this picture is not really the way they look most of the time. But anyway. Okay. This is one of my favorite songs. This is a winter wren. Hey, all right, we got some winter wren fans here. All right. The wren lobby. Wrens are awesome. All wrens are awesome. Because they are tiny. They are among the smallest songbirds we have, but they are so ferocious and loud that it's almost unbelievable. And they're feisty. They'll get right in your face. They'll get in anyone's face. They don't care. That could be the house wrens in your yard. That could be Carolina wrens down south that are creeping their way up here. But it also could be these winter wrens. Winter wrens are sort of deep woods wrens. Tiny mouse-like brown birds. They bounce around on like fallen logs and tangled areas in the woods. And they sing like maniacs. I think I wrote in the book that to me, it sounds like a mouse on speed playing the violin. Okay? This is the sound of the winter wren. And it's the size of this, right? It's smaller than my hand. But you can hear this from across the forest. Ready? Breathtaking. Stops you in your tracks. Crazy song from a tiny little guy.
Is it true that they have the longest continuous call of all the birds?
Is that true? I don't know. I've never heard that.
I've been told that.
Been told that the winter wren has the longest continual call of any bird. Holy frijoles. I don't know. I've never heard that. Let's look into that. 54. Oh, so counted by notes, not time?
Yeah, like,
Oh, I would agree. I bet you're right. I totally bet you're right. If you're not doing by length of time. Because how many even, do you want to try to count? Let's count the notes. No, let's not. But I will say that, like, this bird has a longer call by time. This is one of my favorite bird calls. This is one you have in Maine. We have in Maine. These are probably singing right now if you get out on a bog somewhere. This is an American bittern. American bittern. Awesome bird. Awesome bird. They are herons, right? But unlike other herons, like a great blue heron that just doesn't give a crap about anything, they'll just stand there and do whatever, they're really shy. These guys are really shy. They are super camouflage. Their whole thing is camouflage. They are brown and have brown stripes, and they stand out among the grass, and they just go like this, right? They look like grass. And they wait for prey to come, and they smack the prey. But because they're so shy, they don't have big showy displays. They don't have big showy sort of songs. And they also, to their disadvantage, live on big open bogs, right? Big, huge areas where a potential mate may be way across the other side. And so they have to be secretive, but also be wicked loud. And so they developed this crazy song call, I don't know what we're going to call it, where what they do when they want to attract a mate is they start by inflating air into their bodies. And when I play the call, you'll hear the bird clack its bill. As it's inhaling air, it claps its bill together. And then it starts pumping the air out, going like that. And it cranks this huge glunk-a-glunk call that you can hear for miles around. I've heard this call dozens of times. I've never seen a bittern doing it because they're tucked into the reeds somewhere doing it. Let me get it. Oops, wrong bittern. American bittern. So it'll start by, you'll hear the clacking, and then it'll go into the galunking. The weirdest call we have. It does. It sounds like a drum. It's awesome. Let me do it one more time. That's it sucking in air. Get out to a marsh if you can this month in the morning and hear that. It's crazy. Okay. There are some songs that are famous for being crappy, bad. I was asked by NPR in 2016 to make a list of the stupidest bird songs in the country. I'm not kidding. I don't know how they got my number. I don't know why they were doing this story, but they said, can you make a list of the stupidest bird songs? And so I said, of course. It sounds great. One of the top birds on my list is a bird that is near and dear to our hearts here in Maine. And I will preface it by saying this. Seabirds don't have occasion to sing very much. When you're out on the open ocean, you can't hear anything, and you're miles away from anybody. And the sounds of the ocean are too loud to bother evolving beautiful songs. And so most seabirds, on the one time a year you come into contact with any other seabird, which is on the nesting colony in May or June, they have sort of figured out some sort of vocal signal to either say I'm here or whatever, but they're not spending a lot of time evolving pretty songs, right? And as a consequence, some of our most beloved seabirds have some of the stupidest calls that we have. And I love puffins. I love Atlantic puffins so much. But their calls, when I pull it up on this app, it's called here chainsaw snores. That's what it says scientifically. That's what a scientist said. The two options are chainsaw snores or sputtering snores. So let me play. This is the song of our beloved Atlantic puffin. That's it. like me after Thanksgiving. That's it. That's all the noise they make. I'll do sputtering snores too. Imagine having a conversation, the only conversation you've ever had is this. I will say, the Atlantic puffin was not the top stupidest bird sound that I put on the list, which is still available online, believe it or not. My stupidest bird song, another beloved bird, doesn't live in Maine. It lives in the high Arctic tundra. It is a willow ptarmigan. This sound, I cannot believe that a bird makes this noise. And I don't know how they don't just laugh at each other constantly. But here is the display sound of a willow ptarmigan. What? What? It goes on like this for hours of this. Unbelievable. Very stupid. All right, quickly, I'm going to transition to just a quick thing about how the heck do we remember all these things. Birders have to keep track of all the stuff in our heads. It's one of the biggest challenges of being a birder, is birds. There are, in Maine, 350 of them? And they all have a song and a contact call and a flight call and a whatever, right? It's really hard. And I will tell you, this is how people did it for most of the time. And this ain't easy, right? If you just read someone's words about what a call may sound like, it's impossible. Voice, a soft, pleasing, soft phrase of mellow whistles, chitty-woo, weedy-woo, and variations. Call of a similar pleasant musical quality, a soft, husky whistle, jew or jew-wee-wee, and a dry chatter. What? Good luck. Good luck. Anybody know? Anybody know what that is? Anybody know? Let me play it here. Here is the song, a soft, pleasing phrase of mellow whistles. Here is the flight call. Bluebird. This call, which of course is a soft, husky whistle, jew or jew-wee-wee, is actually a really good call to remember. Do you guys have bluebirds all over the place up here? Okay, like southern Maine. The population of bluebirds is skyrocketing, mostly because we have put out fruit trees for them to eat, and because they're just like, you know what, I don't need to migrate anymore. Screw it, I'm done migrating. So the winter population especially is just skyrocketed in Maine. But this is a really good, their flight call is a really good one to remember. They call often while they're flying. And that jew-wee-wee, I guess that is right, is a good one to remember. So let's just, yeah.
A question about bluebirds.
Yeah.
We first saw them in our backyard on January 8th. And now it's been, about 2 months we haven't seen any.
Yeah. You never know. You never know. Your yard is just sometimes a place they visited and never go back. They may not want to keep up residence or whatever. You never know with bluebirds. And a lot of them are exploring for new territories and doing stuff. So,
They're still around.
oh yeah,
Okay.
oh yeah.
Good.
Let's just lock this call into our brains, okay? It's got a little curly Q. But you can't write a little curly Q, right? It doesn't make sense. Bluebird. So the other way, this is the way I learned, quote unquote learned, I just did a terrible job of it, CD. You put in a CD, this is how birders, or an LP, birders for years, you put it on, it would go, Northern Parula. And then it would play the call, and you'd be like, okay, Northern Parula. And then it would move on, and you'd never hear it again. Almost impossible. But this is the way people did it for the longest time. And I say this because we are getting better about teaching and learning bird songs. Here are a couple apps that are helpful. This is one that I've used for a long time. This is called LarkWire. This is a testing. This will test you, right? So what this will, and it's so frustrating because it's hard. But it'll present you with a set of birds, and it'll play all the calls, and you can learn them. And then it'll give you quizzes, right? And it'll play the thing, and you have to guess the right bird, and you guess it enough, and then you move on, or whatever. So I recommend Larkwire to anybody out there who wants to learn and bone up. But guess what? Larkwire is probably out of business because of Merlin now. If you don't have Merlin on your phones, get Merlin on your phones. Does anyone not have Merlin on your phone? Okay, good. One. Get it on your, download it right now. Let's all watch him download it on now. Merlin is unbelievable because Merlin is, I don't even need to tell you. It's unbelievable, right? You all have it. I'll just tell him. Merlin's unbelievable. It's like Shazam for bird calls, where you hold it up and it tells you what's out there. It's not 100% accurate, and that's very important. In Capissic Park, some guy was here. I got a yellow-breasted chat. No, you weren't. That was a Baltimore Oriole you were hearing, sir. But it's very good. And when you dive into the soundscape of birds, you realize that everyone has certain blind spots or deaf spots. There are calls that for some reason just don't connect to your brain, or that you can't hear the wavelength. And there are oftentimes when I have Merlin open, and if I'm birding, I'll be like, yeah, got all those. Oh, there's one of those. And then I'll listen for that, and I'll be like, oh, there it is. So it's really good at picking up stuff that you just don't hear somehow, because there's a lot out there, or because you just don't connect with that certain thing. So Merlin is awesome, but nothing beats the old field experience. Get out there, because birds make different calls. Birds do weird stuff. Birds mimic other birds, right? Birds do all kinds of weird stuff. So get out there and learn for yourself. Okay, so we got more time, and I'm going to end, or I have a bunch of these, right? Well, these are just some songs that we should know in the spring, okay? And then I'll leave time at the end for you to tell me what birds you want to hear about, okay? The number one bird, believe it or not, that I get asked about at Maine Audubon, is someone comes in and says, I heard this bird, what was it? Loud, and it was doing these clear notes. And very few people even know that titmice are around, but tufted titmice is very often the answer. Tufted titmice are related to chickadees, little gray birds, and they're pretty nondescript, but they sing loud as the dickens. And they sing these loud, clear noises. And one of the best ways to remember it is it sounds like they're saying, Peter, Peter, right? Peter, Peter. Do you hear that? Yeah, Peter, Peter. It's loud and clear, and you can't miss it. But a lot of people don't know where it is, okay? So birdsong you should know number one, Peter, Peter of the tufted titmouse. Done. The song that we get complaints about the most at Maine Audubon is the robin. God bless our poor little robins. We love them. They are famous for singing earlier than any other bird and later than any other bird. And when that is right outside your window, that's pretty annoying. It is pretty annoying. I'll get it. Because they are loud, and they have a sort of piercing set of songs that people don't like. But don't call us. We're not going to do anything about it, okay? Just deal with it. I don't know. Put the earplugs in. Leave me alone. Let me play a couple robin songs or noises so you know what's going on. Here is their song, just so we're all on the same page. We've heard that. It's loud, repetitive, clear whistle phrases, right? They also have a couple others. This whinny call is a sound that you'll hear a lot, but you may not know it's coming from a robin. It's a bit of an alarm call, social call between them. That's a good one. It's like a whinny, like a horse a little bit. The other one is a pup call. This is a contact call given between robins. Heard that? Sounds a lot like a woodpecker. Cool. Okay, we're on the same page? So now, at least when you're complaining about the bird, you know what it is in the morning. It's a robin. This is one of the best. Eastern phoebe, one of the reasons they're so beloved is because these guys come in March, right? So, March is the worst. It's still snowing and still cold, and you're like, when is spring migration going to come? When you start hearing an Eastern phoebe, spring migration is coming. Some people confuse this with the robin song that I played earlier. They both say Phoebe. I mean, phonetically it's Phoebe, but here's an Eastern Phoebe doing its call. Got that? Emphatic Phoebe. Cool. All right, settle down, buddy. Beautiful one. So that's one you should know. They say its own name. It's very helpful when birds say their own name. They always do that. And in one way or another, most birds actually are named onomatopoeically. Whether, people always hear them differently, and so, I guess he's saying bobolink, I guess. But that's where the name bobolink comes from. And a lot of birds are named after their calls, even if it doesn't necessarily sound like it. Here's a good one. We get questions about these all the time. And, do folks know the famous Who Cooks For You? It's maybe the most famous bird mnemonic there is. Yes? The two largest owls in Maine are barred owl and great horned owl. And they are both calling. They start singing early. Owls breed early. They got big babies and they need to raise them up quickly. And so they start mating and getting the process going in January, February. And so you may start hearing both of these species calling early in the winter, but they still do it now as they're on territory or talking with their babies. Let's play them. Barred owl is the famous Who Cooks For You, right? So barred owl is more common than great horned owl in Maine, found in any forested area. If you see them, dark eyes, right? The dark eyes on the barred owl is a dead giveaway. But also lighter colored and obviously no ear tufts, right? Like the great horned owl. But here is their Who Cooks For You song. So again, you're just going to have to make it work. Who cooks for you is what people say that he's saying, or she. Right? There we go. There are other variations of this. A lot of times you'll hear it go hoo-ah, like that. Okay. And then there are some, this is listed here as caterwauling chorus, which sounds exciting. Crazy. But that sort of like wah noise, that's a barred owl. So if you ever hear that, no matter what else they're doing, that's a barred owl. Great horned owl, for me, this was locked in second grade when you watch like a Halloween show and they go to a graveyard, right? This is a classic to me. Maybe this only connects with me, but like this is the classic Halloween noise. And let me find it. So I just call it classic hoots. This is like I don't know, TV hoots. They're just hoots. Hoots. I don't know. This is what owls are supposed to sound like. So if you hear that much more classic hoot, not the longer phrase of a who cooks for you, or if you, you'll never hear a great horned owl going wah in any way. That's a great horned owl. Cool? All right, I have a couple warblers. Because this is warbler time, baby. We are here. And what I've done for a couple of these warblers is get a screenshot of the spectrograph, right? So when you play a call, and this is how Merlin works, right? Merlin isn't hearing the thing. It's converting what it's heard into a spectrograph and then reading the spectrograph to say, this is what a yellow warbler's spectrograph looks like, so I'm going to spit that out. And this can be helpful as we follow along with the calls, because you can sort of read the call as it goes, okay? Yellow warbler, a stunner. I saw some this morning in Portland. Beautiful, they're all yellow. Males have orange streaks this time of year down there. I was in Costa Rica a couple weeks ago, and the yellow warblers down there have bright red heads. These red heads, they were awesome. Not to brag or anything, but when I was in Costa Rica, the way that people remember the yellow warbler call is because it sounds like it's saying, sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet, 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 I'm so sweet. And I will tell you, I've been listening to a lot of yellow warbler calls recently. They don't say that much. There's a lot of variation in yellow warbler call, but there's sort of a tonal consistency and a sort of a sound consistency that may work better than the phrase. But still, the phrase is very helpful, and I'll play it anyway. Okay? And follow along with the spectrograph, where you can see it goes, there's sort of 3 or 4 short notes and then a couple lower notes, and it ends high, right? Sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet. Cool. Yellow warbler. This is one you can hear, you'll hear tomorrow morning. If you're walking in a park, you'll hear it tomorrow morning, especially if there's water nearby or it's sort of like a little bit more of an open area, edge habitat. Yellow warblers are in now and they're singing, okay? Sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet. Black-throated green warbler. One of our most numerous warblers. They are in now. One that's harder to see, especially in the spring. They stay high up in the trees and are small and tiny. And we are also, so one of the great things about May 13th, let me say, is we are at the point where there's lots of birds back, whereas not at the point where there's tons of leaves yet. Leaves are a birder's curse because we want leaves on the trees, but birds hide behind them, and you can't see them. So we're still in that sweet spot of like, there's a bird in the tree and I can see it. But once we get a few more leaves, you're not going to see black-throated greens because they are up in the stuff and behind the leaves. But they say, and this is one that I invented myself, and so I think they say their name. Black-throated green? No, okay, well, I'll sing it. And there's a spectrograph. You'll see it's sort of syllabic like this. Beep, beep, boop, boop, beep. Ready? Hold on. Gonna search it up. Black-throated green. Okay, ready? Black-throated green. Right? The trouble I have with bird songs, I don't have a good memory. And remembering a mnemonic is just another thing to remember, right? So now I have to remember a yellow warbler and sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet. And I have to remember that sweet, sweet, I'm so sweet means yellow warbler. That's just more to remember. So I try to make the birds say their name. I just shove the name into it. And then it's just one thing to remember, right? Black-throated green, black-throated green. Done. And it sort of fits, all right? So if you, whoops, I lost it. Oops, my thing just shut down. Hold on. Did people hear that a little bit? Black-throated. Oh, that was not a good response. Ready? Black-throated green. Yeah, all right, great. You just said yes to get me to move on. I get it, thank you. But you'll hear that call a lot, right? And that's a bird that you will hear tomorrow, but not see very well. Ovenbird. Beloved bird. This bird, yeah, I'm mixing it up. I think we're moving on from teachers. This bird, ovenbirds are great. They are warblers as well. They are named after their oven, their sort of Dutch oven-style nests they build on the forest floors. They live in the thick stuff too, and you hear them like crazy, but you also rarely see them. They sing very loud, and always, we all learned that what an ovenbird is saying is teacher, 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 teacher. We're a little young and cooler here at Maine Audubon, so we think they say pizza. I actually think it sounds closer to pizza, pizza, pizza than teacher, teacher, teacher. But you all be the judge. Teacher or pizza? What do you think? Pizza. So these are a couple of variations. Yeah, this one's harder. Ovenbird. Doesn't work. whether it's teacher, teacher, or pizza, pizza, this is a call you hear all the time when you're in the forest right now, right? So not on the edge or on the, in a swamp. In the forest, you hear teacher, teacher, or pizza, pizza. Emphatic, loud, repetitive. That's an ovenbird. Red-eyed vireo. This is actually the last one I have here. Red-eyed vireos are not quite here yet. So this is a bird that comes in really thick starting now in southern Maine, and will be here really thick through the end of the month. One of the great things about red-eyed vireos is that they sing all day long. Unlike a lot of these other birds, which sing in the morning and then go around the business of feeding throughout the day and stop singing, red-eyed vireos sing throughout the day, throughout the summer. They're constantly singing. And so this is a really good one. If you can remember the call, you can hear it because they're giving it a lot, right? And their song, as you can see down here, is a bunch of repeated phrases that just go. So here I am in the tree. Look up. Look at me. Here I am in the tree, right? All day for these guys. Okay? So when you hear that, that's a red-eyed vireo. All right. All right, so now that's the formal presentation, but I'm here to answer any questions about bird calls or any other questions you may have from
So we have to put questions on the microphone. Chloe?
Do you want me to just repeat the questions as they come in? Or do you want to pass the mic around?
You want to try that?
Sure.
Okay. But then, I don't know.
You may
I'll
miss
pass
it.
the mic.
Okay, pass the mic.
Chloe, you can also pass.
On the bluebird,
Yeah.
the bluebird, we identify our bluebirds by the water in their call, in their song. It sounds like sound going over a waterfall.
Mm.
We hear the water, and we know it's the bluebird.
Huh.
The one you played on Merlin, was that what you used?
Yeah, I'm using the Sibley app.
I heard Sibley. I heard no water in that call.
You heard no water in the call.
It's more like a sound of and so
Can you do that again in the microphone, please? Yeah. Interesting.
and they talk to each other very softly. It's a very
Huh.
gentle language back and forth.
Let me play this interaction call and see if this is what. Is that what you're hearing?
It's a little softer than that.
Ours is soft, very soft.
You know, there is lots of variation among different birds, and also people hear sounds differently, which is why one of the hardest things, and this happens all the time in Maine Audubon, is someone comes up and says, I have this bird in my backyard, and it's going, rah, 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 rah. What is that? I'm like, buddy, no idea. And so it's a very personal thing, sort of how you hear a noise, and I'm sure they are making water noises, but maybe that's just works for you.
That was my second question.
Uh-oh.
Is there variation from
Oh, absolutely variation. Yeah, very frustratingly variation. And that could be just among an individual doing its own thing. It could be among subspecies or different populations around. There are dialects and accents. Birds make all kinds of noise.
With the spring migration,
Yeah.
my question is, that so many stop at Sears Island and they continue on to Canada. Is that something that you know is regular, or do sometimes, say, one of the birds surprises you and stays on in Maine?
Rarely do birds stay in a place that they don't typically breed. So these birds have honed their migration and habitat needs over thousands of years. And when a bird has a specific need, it needs it. And so if a bird is a boreal breeding bird, it's not going to stop halfway unless it's hurt or for some reason. And so the birds that are coming through the mid-coast here are either reaching their final destination or their destination nearby, or are on their way to somewhere else. I don't think ever, unless there's an injured bird, do you have a bird that just decides to sort of set up shop in a place that it doesn't normally.
Thank you.
Sure. But we do find birds out of place, and that's the most exciting thing about being a birder. Oh my goodness, is sometimes birds mess up migration. Sometimes birds migrate the wrong way, or they get in with the wrong crowd, a bad crowd, right? And they go the wrong way. And will show up in Maine when they shouldn't be in Maine, or aren't usually in Maine. And that's the spice of being a birder. It's one of the most fun things about being a birder, is because you'll be sitting at your desk doing some dumb work, and then you'll get a text, and it'll say, there, for example, this will happen this week, there's a cerulean warbler in Portland. Cerulean warbler is a threatened, near endangered warbler that lives in the Appalachians, high up there. It's a beautiful blue cerulean bird. Doesn't live in Maine. Not found in Maine. One was in Maine. One was at Evergreen Cemetery. And so you say, hey, boss, I don't feel good. I have to go lay down. And you drive to Evergreen Cemetery, and you see all your other friends who are also feeling ill all of a sudden, and you high-five each other because here's a cerulean warbler, this bird you thought about, now it's in Portland. This happens all the time, and is what's so fun about being a birder is because I used to think of it as like, if you say you love music, right? And somebody calls you and you're like, Bob Dylan is playing a concert in the field in Westbrook right now. We have to go, right? Like, there's no other activity where that happens, but birding happens all the time. It's so much fun. So that happens all the time where birds, vagrants, we call it, show up. But sometimes they don't usually breed. They usually don't. But you can still see them, which is cool. Yeah.
Can you do a couple songs or calls from some predators?
Sure.
Hawks or eagles? Or...
Sure. Anyone in particular? Let me start with the eagle, bald eagle. Bald eagle was on my list of stupidest. And no disrespect to them, I love bald eagles. But they are so famously dumb-sounding that in movies they have to replace it with another sound that sounds cooler. So in every movie where you see a majestic eagle flying over, they dub in a red-tailed hawk because a red-tailed hawk sounds awesome and an eagle sounds stupid, right? So bald eagles have sort of this giggling laugh thing. This is what they do. Sounds like a gull. Like imagine you're in the Western movie and you're flying over the canyon and here comes the bald eagle and it's doing this. Like, no, not good. Instead, what you hear every time is this. Right? You've all seen it. Red-tailed hawk. That's what that is, every time. And I should say, no great shakes as a song either. That's a hoarse scream. That sounds terrible. But it does sound kind of scary and impressive. So that's a red-tailed hawk. Are there other particular raptors you want to hear? Well, let me make sure he gets a couple. Sharpshin, sure. Sharpshins, so we did broadwing. Yep, here's a sharpshin. So most raptor calls you hear only at the nest, around the nest. You know, raptors don't want to call, right? Because especially sharpshin and coopers, because their whole deal is to not be, is this element of surprise, right? So they want to be as quiet as possible. But only when talking with potential mates or babies is really where you hear them, at the nest. And so if you do hear the sound of a sharpshin hawk or any one of these, check it out, because there's probably a nest nearby. But I'll play the sharpshin hawk. This is called Alarm Calls Near the Nest. It sounds a little flickery, but a loud, sort of insistent call. And Coopers are very similar in Maine. I can do a red-shouldered. I was going to play, okay, hold on. So when we talk about calls, one of the most awesome but frustrating things is mimics. Birds mimic other calls all the time. And blue jays are actually way good at it. And they're the most common, like you probably don't have mockingbirds up here, right? Mid-coast? Do you have mockingbirds? Okay, I don't have them in Cumberland. Mockingbirds are obviously the most famous mimic. Cool thing about mockingbirds, people don't know why they do it. A mockingbird's whole song is just other bird songs. But we don't really know what the advantage is. Is that, like, why? Why are you doing this, buddy? And we can't ask them. Anyway, blue jays also mimic songs. You hear it a lot when they come into your feeders. And the reason people think is because they don't want any other birds at the feeders, right? They're saying, I'm going to do a hawk imitation to get everybody out of here so I can have this to myself. So this is a blue jay doing the hawk, and then I'll play the red-shouldered after this. It's a blue jay. Okay, now ready? Right? That's the hawk. It's crazy. So this is a red-shouldered hawk in this imitation. We don't have as many red-shoulders in Maine as we do broadwings, but the blue jays on my feeder do broadwings. And countless times have I just been hanging out inside and then heard a broadwing, like, it's at my feeder, and then looked down and just a blue jay, and I say, you son of a gun, good job. All right, was there a question in the middle? Yeah, yes ma'am.
You said that female birds also sing. Does a female of a certain species sing the same song that the male sings?
Most of the time, yes. Most of the time, yes. We have a lot to learn about female birdsong. This is really a growing body of science just in the last 4 or 5 years, where people are actually studying, because until just a couple years ago, people assumed that every song they heard was a male. And so we just didn't even look into it. And so tracking down the singing bird to understand if it's a male or female, and then to understand why, what's going on here, and what is the variation between them, gigantic area of study that is just being embarked upon. We've got some back here.
I used to go to Mount Auburn Cemetery, and people would write what they saw. Parula, or how do you say it?
Sure.
Parula. When it was on my Merlin today. How do they sound?
Oh, I love.
Are they a warbler?
They are a warbler. So there are 2 ways to pronounce it: parula or parula.
Okay.
Or I just sort of mush-mash it in the middle. Northern parula. My own pronunciation. One of the most beautiful birds. You can't see, blue on the back, green triangle in the middle, and then yellow chest with like this tequila sunrise pattern in the middle. So yeah, that's a little bigger. Anyway, they have a very distinctive call that the way you remember it is the very end. So it's this upswinging thing, goes like that, okay? Hopefully it sounds like that when I play. And that little peep at the end of the upswing is how you hear it, is how you do it. And that is a very common call tomorrow. If you went to any park around here tomorrow, May 14th, one of the best birding days of the year, you'll hear that, okay? So listen for that, especially that last ding, the last sort of clip there. Yeah, in the back, and then in the front. I'll just repeat it. I'll repeat it, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Whippoorwills. Yeah. All right, so the gentleman says he lived near Sebago Lake, and he hear whippoorwills. He used to hear them a lot. Now he doesn't hear them so much anymore. Couple things there. Whippoorwills are awesome. Whippoorwills are they're in the nightjar family, also known as goat suckers, one of the most delightful birding terms there are. And they are nocturnal aerial insectivores, right? So like nighthawks, like whippoorwills, like Chuck Will's widows, these birds fly around at night with their mouths wide open, gulping up moss and other things flying around at night. And they sing almost constantly. These are birds that sing their names, right? So they get their name onomatopoeically because it sounds like he's saying whippoorwill, whippoorwill, whippoorwill. And they sing like hundreds and thousands of times per night. It's a constant soundtrack when you're in the right place with them. So I'll play it first. Here's a eastern whippoorwill. It's like a beat. You could put a beat behind it and do a rap song. Whippoorwills are awesome. I will play, so it sounds like it's saying whippoorwill. Chuck-will's widows don't really live in Maine. There's been one that's been in Maine. This is speaking of birds that are in the areas where they shouldn't be. There's been one whippoorwill that has come not too far from here, actually, though I can't remember the name of the place, for the couple of years in a row. But this one is saying Chuck-will's widow. Chuck-will's widow. A lot of these nightjars are in population decline. A lack of insects or declining insect populations, and also certain habitat restrictions that we are still trying to figure out are causing their declines. There was just a big nightjar survey across Maine recently that we're waiting to find the results of to see how they're doing recently. We're also awaiting the updated Maine Bird Atlas, which is this every 30-year project that was last completed in 1983. It's going to be released next year or thereabouts. That will give us a real, very clear image of how bird populations have shifted in that time. But you will see that nightjar populations have declined in Maine very steadily, as they have across the country. So I'm sorry you're not hearing them any longer, but they are still around in certain places.
Do male red-winged blackbirds and females migrate separately?
Good question. I don't think so.
Because we had tons and tons of red-winged blackbirds that overnighted in our yard, and they were all males.
Well, so certain birds do that, and I want to make sure she gets her question next too. Certain birds do that. So males generally migrate earlier than females of most species because they have, for the most part, the work to do, right? They have to get a territory and then defend it, and then the ladies get to come in later and have their choice. And so loons are a great example of that too. Male loons migrate first, so they get their territory all set up, and then the female loons come in and then decide around. And so you often see mixed flocks, flocks of red-winged blackbirds, but that makes perfect sense that they would come in all and get up on there as soon as possible. Yeah, right here.
I have a question about two missing birds.
Uh-oh.
One is my daughter moved to Minnesota, and they have reintroduced swans.
Mm-hmm.
And I was impressed. So she lives out in the country, and the swans are all over those ponds, just a lot of them. But I understand there used to be swans in Maine, and I wondered if they were trying to reintroduce them. And that's what happened in Minnesota. They didn't have them.
Interesting question. So let me do that one first.
Okay.
So the swans that you're talking about are trumpeter swans. Mm-hmm. So trumpeter swans, we have several species of swans in the U.S. Trumpeter swans are a native swan that live across the sort of Rocky Mountains, and then there used to be a lot more of them. They were hunted extensively and had other habitat degradation areas, and so they are on their way back. In Maine, we never had native swans, but we did have introduced mute swans. So mute swans, which are the ones with orange bills, are native to Europe and Asia. But they are beloved, and so lots of people brought them over to populate the US, especially in parts of New England, New York, places like that. They are very pretty, but they are also not great neighbors to a lot of native species for a couple reasons. They're gigundous and aggressive and kick stuff away, right? So they fight other birds away. They also have such long necks that they can reach and eat food. They basically eat everything, right? They can reach everything, and so they out-compete a lot of native birds for food. And so mute swans are actually listed as an invasive species and are removed from Maine and New England whenever possible. There still are extant populations in New England, and there may be one or two in Maine every year, but they are on their way out. So unlikely to have more swans in Maine. But go visit your daughter. And when there's, do we have one more real quick?
Yeah, the other missing bird is the eagle that was nesting in Steers.
Oh.
What's happened to it? It hasn't shown up.
Don't know. I don't know. Sorry. Anything can happen to an individual bird. It could have something could have happened on its wintering grounds or whatever, but it's hard to say.
One last question, anybody?
In the back.
Speaking of begging behavior, today I saw a chickadee twice doing begging behavior. Is that fledged this year? Could it be a holdover from last year that just can't let go, or?
Yeah. Look, your son, he's right next to you. He's listening to you, yeah. Not that there's anything wrong with that, buddy, okay? You stay at home as long as you want. Chickadees nest early, occasionally. Chickadees, because they are non-migratory, have a little more flexibility with how they want to breed. And they can do multiple clutches if things go right. But because they are less dependent on a certain seasonal explosion of insects, because they are good at finding insects in certain places, because they cache food, so in the fall they hide seeds everywhere and then can find them later on, they are a little more secure in their food sources depending where they are. And so that could be an early breeding bird. That's a cool sight. And it's not begging, it's asking your dad for love, okay, bud? Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. All right, well, thanks everybody so much for coming out. It's great to see you as always.
Thank you so much. We've enjoyed this.
Okay.